Halo 2 is a game that I have a lot of love for, but now that I'm older, I have quite a bit of distaste for this game. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy revisiting it when I get the chance. Halo 2, in its heyday, was one of the biggest video games to have ever been released, releasing alongside some of the best games ever made, including Half-Life 2, Doom 3, and Metroid Prime 2, Echoes. Some people beg to differ. But November of 2004 was a messy month, which was coincidentally the month of my birth. The month where amazing things happened, like the release of Halo 2 and Half-Life 2. There was also the dawn of an accident. Okay, I just got sidetracked. But all jokes aside, November of 2004 was crazy. Halo 2 was perhaps the biggest marketing thing of 2004. News stations, talk shows, and promotional material were through the roof. Half-Life 2 sold better, just by 1 million, which is a big margin, but not massive. Well, how does Halo 2 hold up against its predecessor? Did Bungie succeed? Well, yes and no. Let's find out, shall we?
That's right, you mothers! Run!
Halo 1 was not as big of a success like the sequel, but Combat Evolved, in my opinion, is a far superior game. Now, I might be hung by my entrails and have my corpse paraded through the city, but Halo CE was a far more balanced game, and it was more fun to play, and it didn't start a bunch of bullshit trends that show up in modern shooters constantly. But Halo 2 is such a step down from the first game. Hell, even graphically. Master Chief looks like a fucking Sprite can now, and everyone in this game wishes they had Valve's facial animation. This game is just so ugly looking, even compared to most other games from 2004. Metroid Prime 2 was far more vibrant than this game, and most of that game was purple anyways. But Halo 2 looks so much worse than Halo CE in my opinion, for many different reasons. For one, Halo CE didn't try to look graphically superior, but it had several things about it that make the visuals charming. Halo 2 looks disgusting and the cutscenes look awkward, and almost every scene that involves humans or people with faces just makes me want to puke. It also doesn't help that this game feels very weightless. Your actions as a player look light and poorly animated, even compared to Half-Life 2, which has some of the stiffest animations I've ever seen for weapons. Halo 2 is fucking hideous. There are no redeeming qualities about the visuals here. There's nothing unique about them that have a charming feeling to them like the first game. I can even get down with older games like Quake and Half-Life 1 for being at least somewhat visually interesting to the point where it doesn't bother me, but Halo 2 just looks awful, and don't fucking tell me I can't say this because it's an Xbox game. Well, kids, let me tell you something. There are games on lesser hardware that looks far superior to Halo 2, and are older. Doom 3 was released on the Xbox and looks better than Halo 2 does. Halo 2 just looks like smeared ass, and I don't enjoy the original graphics unlike Combat Evolved, because Combat Evolved has the ability to surprise me with the detail it actually has. Oh yeah, and another visual element was added to Halo 2 that has bothered the shit out of me for Halo games: the Lowered Reticle. This is one thing about Halo games that I cannot fucking stand. Apparently, the Lowered Reticle is supposed to increase visual awareness of upcoming enemies or projectiles. But the thing is, the FOV in this game is so goddamn low that I don't see the Lowered Reticle helping in any way. Halo CE had a centered reticle, and because of that, the low FOV never really bothered me, because I wasn't paying attention to the edges of my screen like Halo 2 and other games. The FOV in Halo 2 is absurdly low, and for what fucking reason? Performance? Bull fucking shit. Because Doom 3 on the Xbox had a 90-degree FOV. I have very few pet peeves when it comes to FPS games, but lowered reticles and garbage FOVs are one of them. Halo 2 had a 75-degree field of vision to my knowledge, and this makes it to where some weapons take up half of the goddamn screen. This makes some sections where you have to be aware of your surroundings especially difficult. This is a big issue on Legendary, which is perhaps the most insulting difficulty I've ever seen, because the FOV is so low and your weapons are getting in the goddamn way that a fucking sniper jackal that you couldn't see just shoots you in an instant. This is not your fault because you couldn't fucking see him anyways. So don't make that bullshit excuse that Master Chief is wearing a helmet so it makes sense for the FOV to low. Bitch, this is a video game. When your players cannot see anything, it's a fucking problem. PC players don't have these issues about FOV and reticles because they're privileged little pricks. I am part of the PCMR, but I play Halo on an Xbox. Why can't I put my FOV at fucking 90 degrees? I don't know. Just because I have nostalgia for this game doesn't mean I'm going to overlook the annoying shit. So you might be saying that video games are not about the graphics and the gameplay is what matters, and while I agree to that with a certain extent, but do also consider that you need to be able to fucking see the game to play it. Okay, so Halo 2 is broken visually. But what about the gameplay? It's fine. Okay, so Halo 2 brought in many mechanics that pissed me off about FPS games. Mainly the regenerating health. This feature plagues modern shooters, and I loathe it. Okay, Halo got away with it, because you also had a fixed health bar, and you needed medkits to heal, but you had that energy shield as a buffer, so it worked and it didn't suck. But Halo 2 removed medkits and health bars, and gives you this dinky little bar of energy shield, and you can die in like 4 seconds on Legendary, and it also makes the game really forgiving, because you can run around like an absolute moron, and then when you take enough damage you can just hide away like a jackass and wait for your shields to regenerate. Also, did I mention that combat feels less weighty? Yeah, that. Gunplay is satisfying enough, the guns feel good to shoot, and the sound design is pretty well done, and they do have an apparent effect on the enemies, which is neat. But the weapon animations are stiff, that I often laugh at them. Your weapons are visually weird, and they aren't that powerful. Also, get used to using precision weapons in this franchise, because they nerfed every weapon that isn't one. The shotgun and magnum, particularly. The Magnum is a cute, dinky little weapon, and it's so limited that it can't even kill a single group of enemies. The shotgun is slow to use, and its damage is so low that it's never wise to pick one of these fuckers up. Also, look at that view model! Did I mention that they reduced the amount of ammo you can carry from Combat Evolved? For the battle rifle, you only have 3 spare reloads, and then you're out of ammo. Do you know how limited that really is? The fact that you can only kill about 6 or 7 elites before running out. Maybe even less. Oh yeah, they removed the assault rifle in this game and replaced it with an SMG that sucks. Weapons in this game are designed poorly. Some are pretty useful though, which do save the sandbox in the long run. Even though I make fun of the pitiful ammunition capacity on the guns, some are still decently powerful. The battle rifle, for example, is my favorite because not only does it sound quite decent for a Halo game, it does pretty good damage to the enemies. While the gameplay may feel a bit lighter and floaty compared to the first game, I can however state how good it feels to shoot your enemies in this game. The ragdoll physics are fantastic, and it's always fun to shoot an enemy and watch them fly back like a pile of shit. Explosions in this game feel really good too. Not as good as Combat Evolved, but they have that nice crackle to them. The weapon sandbox was greatly improved in the variety department. New snipers, rocket launchers, and rifles have been added to spice up the sandbox, giving the Covenant a more wide selection of guns to choose from so you wouldn't be relying on the plasma pistol and needlers so much. And for the first time in the series, the energy sword is usable, and it fucking shreds. This thing is ridiculously powerful. It has insane range and damage output towards everything, except for brutes and hunters. You can also dual wield some of the smaller weapons, and this gives the sandbox a little more use. But I never really found myself dual wielding in the first place, so you only really use this feature if you got nothing else. There are also a few new enemies added into the mix to give you some more things to shoot at.
Beware! Sniper!
Which, this is a topic on its own. The Covenant enemies don't behave much different, aside from the new enemies being added, which include the flying drones, bugs that harass you from the air, and these guys come in large numbers, and they are a goddamn firing squad. They will kill you quickly if you're not too careful, but that goes to every enemy in this franchise. And can I also mention that none of the Covenant enemies use hit-scan weapons, so fighting them is a lot less bullshit than fighting the Flood are, who can use hit-scan and projectile weapons. Sometimes you can find the odd brute using a shotgun, but it's exceedingly rare. Oh yeah, brutes. These motherfuckers are here to replace the elites in the end, and you still fight elites though. But late game, the brutes are more of a priority. They usually come in pairs. Once you kill one, the other goes apeshit and tries to beat the ever-loving shit out of you. They also added these big-ass robots called the Enforcers, which fight alongside the Sentinels in some of the later missions. But even if there are a couple new enemies, I can't help but feel that there wasn't enough unique behaviors added to the elites and other Covenant to make them more deadly, because you can enter this game and immediately realize that the Covenant fight the same as they did in the previous game, so no adjusting your playstyle is really needed in the first place. I can't judge this game too hard, because we all know how hellish Halo 2 development cycle was, and I'm going to be a little lenient on this game for that, but I can't help but feel that this game needed a bit more variety in the enemies and weapon design. There's no assault rifle! There's no assault rifle! Who passed that? But Halo 2 only has a few things left in it to really talk about. Halo 2's level design was drastically reduced from being grand and epic from Combat Evolved, where the levels are more enclosed and boxy than ever before. I think this was to boost the performance, but I don't believe it because other games on lesser hardware had some really ballsy visuals and looked incredible when it came to their level design. Halo 2 is very claustrophobic, and the levels are shorter, probably due to less copy and pasting, which is nice, but some of these levels are just monotonous. I often just try to skip past these sections to alleviate some of the annoyance. Halo 2's levels are not very visually striking either. They are well balanced to a degree, but some of these areas are just so bullshit. Halo 2 sure does have a fetish for locking you into rooms and fighting like 12 waves of bad guys. Halo 2 relies on elongated paths rather than huge open spaces with tons of stuff going on. Did I also mention that Halo 2's levels are fucking boring? The Actman ripped on Halo 4 for driving vehicles down a linear path while completely forgetting about that one part in Outskirts where you drive for like 10 years through a tunnel with a warthog. There are also no deviating paths and it's fucking dull. Combine that with the uninteresting visuals, adds a recipe for pure unadulterated dog shit. In some of these earlier levels, they love spamming sniper jackals at you and that gets annoying. When the levels do open up, it's often underutilized because some of these bigger areas are completely devoid of anything. This game is either really easy or bullshit hard, and again, people always say this game is like that because of time constraints, so people often overlook it, which is horseshit. This is Bungie's fault no matter how they were constrained on time. It was their ambition that fucked Halo 2. Oh, where was I? Alright, the level design. That's what I was... But anyways, these levels aren't all bad. There are some enjoyable moments here, but a lot of this is subpar at best. It's a lot of waiting around in areas for shit to happen, and it's reoccurring more than 3 times. I'd actually think this type of shit happens in every single level in the entire game. I understand having to kill enemies to progress, but making it insanely tedious, not to mention that it happens over and over again. Why the fuck did this happen? This level design is just lazy, and I'm tired of seeing it, and I'm glad it's not like this in future installments. The soundtrack in this game is fucking phenomenal. Halo has always been a franchise with fantastic music, and Halo 2 is a crowning example of awesome FPS soundtracks. And it's such a beautiful arrangement of instruments and styles of music. Marty and Michael are doing their best damn work here, and it shows. Songs that make you sad, songs that make you ready to kick some ass, and songs that make you tense. Each piece of music has its place in the game, and the soundtrack is even better than Halo 1's, which is a hard thing to top since I consider most other things about Halo 2 inferior to its predecessor. The music shows how good video game music can be. I mean, just listen to this shit. It's fucking amazing. Okay, so this is the last topic of the main video, so let's rip off this band-aid quickly. This story. Fuck! that took some of my hair with it. Listen, the story of Halo 2 is fantastic. Everything makes logical sense, and each event ties in logically with the next, never leaving a dull moment. Each character is really well written, and the cutscenes are really good with the cinematography. They're not animated that well because of these laughably appalling character models distract me from how well written the story is. Which is why I prefer the remastered cutscenes, which I do not have footage of, but by golly, they look very impressive. The plot is simple. There's another Halo ring. Stop the Covenant from activating it and killing everything. The journey along the way is enjoyable enough, and the story is the best in the entire series, which we'll get to that eventually. Halo 2 is a game that I have a ton of nostalgia for. After all, I played it when I was only 7 years old, but replaying it nowadays, I start to see that this franchise of shooters is mostly judged on nostalgia. People have that cloud their visions, and to be honest, Halo 2 is not that great of a game. It's a fun game to play through, and the story is well written, but there are plenty of bleeding flaws about this game that keep me from calling it amazing. I blame Halo 2 for starting all of these different trends in gaming that I despise now. Regen health, 2 weapons only, low FOV, and overly linear level design. Combat Evolved is definitely a superior game, but Halo 2 does stand on its own merits as a good game. Not a bad game, not even a great one, just a good game. Do I recommend you play Halo 2? Yes, absolutely! Halo is a franchise that everyone should play at least once. What I have issues with, you may not even notice, and that's okay. But the best way to play the Halo saga nowadays is on PC. Look, Halo 2 was just released on Steam a few weeks ago, so you have no reason not to play it on PC unless your specs are less than desirable. If you get it on Xbox One, just know that you'll have to deal with a low-ass FOV and no modding capabilities. I do not think Halo 2 is the best game of 2004, nor do I think it ever was, and I don't think it's the best FPS game on consoles. There are far superior games from 2004 that sold way less copies. Metroid Prime 2 will always be my pick for best of 2004, but that's for another video, which is coming soon. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Skeptical Rowan, wishing you all a fucking fantastic night, and take care.